Welcome to the Legally Speaking podcast. I'm your host, Rob Hanna. This week, I'm delighted to be joined by Scott Leigh. Scott attended the University of Alberta, graduating with a Bachelor's of Commerce before completing his JD at the University of Calgary. Scott is the CEO and co-founder of AltFee, a software company helping law firms and legal professionals succeed with non-hourly billing pricing. Scott is passionate about providing solutions to law firms, legal professionals, and clients. Scott has experience as a business broker to law firms, legal professionals, and clients. Scott is very well versed in a number of different roles, including legal administrative assistant, lawyer, and managerial positions. Earlier this year, AltFee won ABA TECHSHOW Startup Alley Competition 2024. So with all that said, a very big warm welcome, Scott.
Yeah, Rob, thanks for having me. Excited for the chat.
It's great to have you here. Before we dive into all your amazing projects, experiences, and everything you're getting up to for the legal community, we do have a customary icebreaker question here on the Legally Speaking podcast, which is, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very real, what would you rate the hit TV series Suits in terms of reality of the law, if you've seen it?
I watched it in its early days, so it's been years since I've watched it. I feel like for all of these shows, it's pretty low. I don't know if I've ever seen one that felt that realistic. I'd maybe give it a nice 2.
A nice 2. Well, you're very kind with your 2. And with that, we should move swiftly on to talk all about you and your background and journey. So I obviously very briefly touched on things in the introduction, but would love for you to tell our audience a bit more about your background and career journey today.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, you gave a bit of the history in terms of my education, but yeah, I did my undergrad with a commerce degree at the University of Alberta while I was playing basketball there, which might surprise some people who meet me in person because I'm not necessarily over the 6-foot number on most days, depending on my shoes. But I had a basketball career while also completing my commerce degree there, which carried me forward into going into law school at the University of Calgary. And my experience growing up was that my dad was a lawyer. And so I'd been around the industry for many, many years in some capacity or the other, whether it's helping him move offices and carrying boxes or going into the back room and stealing a couple fresh pens for me to take to school. We've got a lot of experience just being in and around the industry growing up. And then that also carried forward into actual roles there at the firm in varying capacities over the years, including spending my summers there during law school, starting to get my hands dirty and actually, getting closer to practicing law. And so got a lot of exposure to the industry early and, had an appreciation for what I saw my dad doing growing up. He'd gone from kind of the big firm partner to his entrepreneurial bug being too overwhelming where he couldn't resist and had a partnership and then ultimately became his own company, which he's been running for close to 20 years now here in Vancouver. And so I've kind of been around that entrepreneurial side, been around the law side of it. And probably both of those, to whatever degree, played into the decision-making of, commerce, something that I was definitely interested in, the entrepreneurial side of that being interesting, and then ultimately going to law school. And when I went to law school, I wasn't quite honestly sure that I wanted to practice law forever, but I was excited about what that education and that experience could do for me while practicing and potentially in more of a entrepreneurial business journey as well coming off of that. So that was a lot of the, early days of getting set up. And ultimately that led me to come into my dad's firm to Article, what we would call Article here is your first year before you become a practicing lawyer, and then spending the next 6 or 7 years practicing corporate commercial, business law, M&A, that sort of space at my dad's firm here in Vancouver. So that's a lot of the foundation.
I love that. And there's just so many synergies there with my background in a way. My grandfather ran a law firm and that inspired me. And I remember doing the really important jobs when I was a kid, like photocopying and getting the copies in the law firm.
Yeah, exactly.
Stealing the pens. And yeah, I'm also, you were far more successful in basketball than me. I'm a failed point guard, 5'11", with a heel. I'd always try and each shot to 6 foot.
Exactly.
And, very good for missing a 3-pointer and an easy layup, but hey, I tried. So many synergies there, that's for sure. Awesome. Okay, well, let's talk entrepreneurship because my late grandfather's also ran his own firm. I got that entrepreneurial bug of wanting to do my own business, but I love your business, so I also have a passion for tech. So, as the CEO and co-founder of AltFee, please tell us more because I think it's a game changer.
Yeah, so maybe I'll start with a brief origin story of AltFee, which came at the tail end of what was that me ultimately practicing. But my dad's firm, we were a team of 25 or 30 of us as the pandemic hit. And we were kind of doing roughly, I would say, half of our work using alternative fees of some sort, primarily fixed fees, success fees, stage-based fees. And that was kind of making up half of our work. And it had been on my dad's mind in particular for quite a while that he really wanted to make this shift to provide more of his services for the firm with alternative fees. And so we were entering the pandemic, these very uncertain times. And, he felt like what better time than now to provide that certainty for our client base. And so beginning of pandemic in March of 2020, made the decision that pursuing this was something that was worthwhile. And I was actually coming off a period of time where I'd taken a few months off traditional work, and my daughter, we had a young daughter, so we did a bit of traveling with my wife and my daughter, and we're just coming back and figuring out what was next. And so things coincided really nicely where my dad wanted to take on this project. I was looking for that thing that maybe wasn't purely practicing law and was something else. And things kind of married up nicely where I could support the firm in building out what ultimately became a very manual system. But we spent 4 or 5 months really trying to figure out, how do we solve this thing, not on a one-off way, but in a way that's systematic, that allows us to continually improve and get better and better and better. And so that was sort of what ultimately is now the origin story of AltFee. But at the time, it was what my dad calls at his firm, Frank Fee. And so we just figured out how we're going to do this thing well, and ultimately led to my dad launching in his firm in summer of 2020. He now offers, and has been for however many years that is, exclusively alternative fees for every project he takes on. And so as we were going through that journey, we got to dig so deep into the space of legal pricing, something that when you're practicing and you're hands-on all the time, it's hard to create some of that freedom of space to think about. And it allowed us being myself, my brother, who also worked at the firm, not in a lawyer capacity, but on the business side of things in marketing, business development, management, as well as my dad, kind of sit back and say, we've been doing this for a little bit now as we've explored this space. Imagine what a technology solution could do to help us be more successful in building this thing out. And that was kind of this thought in our head of, oh, maybe there's an opportunity here, because there's certainly nothing out there in the market right now that's going to help us with this challenge. And so come fall of 2020, that was sort of us saying, using our great network to pitch this idea and say, does this resonate? Does this make sense to you? Does it make sense to you? Getting enough of the support and our obviously internal belief that this is something we want to go pursue. So AltFee kind of became a thing, obviously just an idea, but in the fall of 2020.
Yeah, and I love that story. And let's talk more about AltFee, because as I said, I get excited when I get to speak to entrepreneurs in this legal tech space, but are really getting it as well, and are getting at the heart of where there is a need, in my opinion, to utilize this technology for good. So AltFee maximizes legal pricing workflow, improves collaboration and efficiency within law firms. I like to treat myself as a 5-year-old. Can you explain in very, very simple terms to everyone listening, how the heck does AltFee work?
Yeah, 100%. So, some of the challenges that we faced early as we explored this space and started to build it up for my dad's firm is stuff that we wanted to provide solutions around. So at the very highest level, what we're doing at AltFee is what we say is we're helping law firms be confident and successful with their non-hourly pricing. And so the way in which we do that, one of the first major challenge that firms typically face when they're offering alternative fees is inaccurately scoping out their work. And that's because typically we're just going based on the own experience that we have in our head, maybe walking down the hall to talk to Jill and say, hey, Jill, you did, the shareholder agreement 3 months ago. How did that experience go for you? Or whatever, it's very rudimentary, if we can call it a system that we have to offer alternative fees. And so what we said is, let's help solve that thing first. So that thing is making sure that we have a system that breaks our various types of work we do at our firm down into individual project types, or if it's more complex, individual stages. And let's give each of those projects the time and the care they deserve so that we can scope those accurately. So in our system, we have what we call guidelines or sort of templates, but it's really a space for all of those typical complexities and areas of scope to be centralized, so that we have a starting place in which we can continuously learn from and add to. But we really are in a position where we have a checklist of sorts off the start to help us really accurately scope out this piece of work we're going to carry on. So for most other businesses, that sounds obvious. But in our industry, under the hourly model, it hasn't been obvious. And so the first piece of the puzzle, let's accurately scope out every piece of work that comes in the door. The second piece of the puzzle, which is kind of the exciting piece of where things are going, ties back to our win at TECHSHOW in terms of our messaging. It's what we call modifiers, but this is more of your value-based thinking. So how I typically describe it is those tasks and complexity are often more of those things that take time. Our modifiers are our value-based thinking. That may not affect how long the project takes, but based on our internal considerations or the value the client is receiving from these services, each of those may play a role in affecting what the right price is to charge for our services. And so we said, let's systematically and provide a consistent system which everyone in our firm can use so that we look at those modifiers, those non-time-based considerations every single time we price. So that's the second stage. And then I'm sure you got questions. The third stage is communication, right? So how do we package up this scope, the complexity, the value of the services we're providing in a way that allows us to be consistent with how we've been talking and package it up in a way ultimately where we can have a dollar amount and a description of what we're doing and have that agreed upon with the client so we can go create that cost certainty for them and get the work started.
I love this. Like, it's just so well thought out. It's really sort of process driven, and it's really getting to the heart of pain points and providing a really good, effective solution to clients, which is something I'm really on board for. But again, I really just want people to understand why this is such a game changer and why I was so keen to get you on today and sort of break things down in super simple terms. So, your goal is to help law firms, legal professionals succeed with non-hourly pricing of services, right? So for those who may not be as familiar or maybe just new to coming into the industry and at the start of their career, how would you describe what hourly billing is and what is non-hourly billing? Or what would be some of the sort of things to kind of keep them top of mind and educated on those points?
Yeah. So hourly is obviously what's been driven into our industry for a long time. That's this idea that every individual within my firm has an hourly rate associated with them based on their experience level, typically. And when someone comes to me for a piece of work, we all have hourly rates at our firm, and I'm simply going to multiply how long it takes each of us to work on this by our hourly rate to come up with a number. And that number is generally what I'm going to put on the invoice. So I'll maybe save a lot of the challenges that come with that, but there are a lot of challenges that come with the hourly model for all the reasons that people who have experienced it. And, the reason why when you ask most attorneys and lawyers what the worst part about their job is, it often comes back to something relating to the billable hour. And that's just from their perspective, let alone the client's perspective. And so let's put that to the side for a sec. And let's talk about what you'll often see described as alternative fee arrangements or AFAs, sometimes described as non-hourly to kind of group it broadly. For us, what we care about when we talk about alternative fee arrangements is really anything outside of the hourly model in which the client is in a position to get cost certainty for the work that we're carrying on. That's a semi-AltFee definition in terms of the cost certainty piece of it, which we feel is important, but that's the idea. So as examples, we're talking about things like fixed fees, right? So you come to my firm and you want to get the incorporation of your company done, no problem. I'm going to do my analysis, hopefully on AltFee, and come out and decide that's going to be $1,500. And you're going to know going into that project that it's going to be $1,500. And us as a firm, one of the exciting things as a firm is that we're actually motivated to be efficient for the first time, because under an hourly model, you're actually financially rewarded for inefficiency, which obviously is quite backwards when you think about it. And so the idea around alternative fee arrangements, whether it's a success fee where I'm getting a percentage of the win out of it, whatever that is, or more of a stage-based approach where I'm kind of assigning fixed fees for different stages, all of those ultimately reward the firm for being efficient and motivate the firm to get that work done as best as possible on the client's behalf.
Yeah, I love that. And that's really important, isn't it? Because we talk a lot about on the show, sort of being efficient, best in class, all of these good things. And the reality is, we need to change the culture to, like you say, reward for being more efficient. So I want to talk about sort of transparency, because what steps does AltFee take to ensure non-hourly pricing remains fair and transparent for all parties involved?
Yeah, well, it's a huge piece of it in that from our experience, one of the personal challenges that really frustrated me with the hourly model was this, what I described as a misalignment between the legal service provider and the client, where on day one, as soon as we decide I'm going to go carry on this piece of work, I'm financially rewarded for inefficiency. You on the client side, you're of course looking for efficiency on carrying this out. And so there's this immediate misalignment, which doesn't bode well for building a great relationship with your clients, both during that project, but also longer term. And so the idea with alternative fees is that let's shift that meaningful conversation around scope and around money primarily to the front end, right? Let's not do this at the back end where I send you an invoice and I sit there hoping that what you think value is the same as what I think value is, and you pay my invoice without complaining, and we can carry on all happy. Let's not do that. Let's shift the conversation to the front end. Let's be honest and transparent about how complex this piece of work is going to be. Let's educate our clients to the degree that they need to be educated on how difficult this thing is going to be and where this thing could go left or right, right? Let's have that conversation on the front end so we're as aligned as possible before we sign that engagement letter and actually carry on the work that we need to do. And so I think it's really important from a transparency perspective to shift those more meaningful conversations to the front end so that we're all in a position of aligning expectations before the work starts.
I think that's so important because no one likes to feel stung at the back end, right? And so by doing it right at the front and you like completely having the conversation out on the table, everything agreed, I think it's just such a better way to do business. And then you build trust and all these other things in terms of longevity, most likely to get referred because it's a new way of legal thinking, all of that good stuff. So I love it. I need to talk a little bit about challenges, and we'll talk more generally about entrepreneurial challenges. But there's something I wanted to ask linked to you as sort of a lawyer and having experienced challenges of hourly billing. Why have you made it your mission to provide solutions to benefit law firms, legal professionals, and clients? Like, what is that real why for you?
Yeah, and it stems from being around the industry for a long time, and there's a few different motivations that led to it. Put aside the personal entrepreneurial excitement that our founding group has, but more just industry specific. So we saw a few things. One is that, we've been around this industry for a long time, and we actually saw a lot of people that were great legal minds just fully leaving the industry or getting away from private practice or areas where their skill set was really valuable. And so we looked around, people like myself, we looked around and saw a lot of people leaving an industry that has a need, has a very important role in society. And these are great minds that are just picking up and doing the next thing because it's not providing whatever they need out of it. And so part of our motivation was, especially for my dad, who's been in the industry for a long time, one of his big motivations for sure was around this idea of, I want to make sure this industry is in a great position when I'm sort of transitioning on from my work side of it. And so there was that piece of it. And then we looked at our clients, right? And we said, how good is this experience for our clients? And we know there's crazy stats out there, like something along the lines of 77% of legal challenges don't get legal help. And so we know there's a huge latent market of people that deserve to have some support. And we view the lack of transparency, hourly model, and the pricing side of things as one of the big reasons why that is often a challenge. And when you walk around the street and ask someone about experiences with lawyers or the legal industry, it's typically not positive. It typically comes back to lawyers trying to make a bunch of money off you, whatever the case is. Like, it's not a positive message often, right? And I think that's a real negative for an industry that has a huge latent market of people that need help. So we looked at these things and we looked at three main groups, what we viewed as the three main stakeholders: the law firm itself, the legal professionals that work there, and the clients of the law firm. And when we looked at this model and then started to experience it ourselves as we rolled it out at my dad's firm, we realized that actually all three of these key stakeholders could be in a better position under a non-hourly model than under an hourly model. And once we realized that and we experienced it firsthand, it was clear to us that we wanted to support in one way or another more people making this transition and being successful under this different model.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. And it's been a huge success, it has to be said. Hey listeners, we'll get back to the episode in just a moment, but first we have an exciting update from our sponsor Clio. Are you a solo practitioner or running a small law firm? Then you know how challenging it can be to stay on top of the latest trends and manage your practice effectively. That's where Clio's 2024 Solo and Small Firm Legal Trends Report comes in. This comprehensive report is packed with valuable insights into the current legal market, client expectation, and the newest technology shaping the future of legal practice. Whether you're looking to boost your firm's efficiency, improve client satisfaction, or grow your practice, this report has the data-driven strategies you need. And the best part, it's absolutely free. Don't miss out on this essential resource. Head over to Clio's website and download your copy of the 2024 Solo and Small Firm Legal Trends Report. Visit clio.com/UK/LTR to get your copy today. Stay ahead of the curve with Clio, the leader in legal practice management software. Now back to the show. I want to talk about some of your wider media, because in TechCouvr's article in February of this year, you state, with increased adoption of AI and other efficiency gaining technologies into law firms, which reduce the time it takes to complete billable tasks, law firms must reevaluate their pricing models to ensure that pricing aligns with the value of their services. Powerful quote. So how do you see the role of AI evolving within law firms? Yes, of course, we're talking about AI. And how will this affect their pricing strategies?
What good podcast in the legal sphere wouldn't have some AI context around it, right? So especially over the last 6 or 8 months, obviously the broader idea of AI has now been around for whatever, a year and a half or so. But I would say the last 8 months or so, we've personally really felt that meaningful shift in conversations from people, where it was exciting, but it was also kind of scary, but interesting for people in the early days. And it started to shift to real life use cases, and people started to appreciate how valuable this type of technology can be for our industry. And so as part of our pitch at TechShow was really coming at that angle that quote sort of talks about, which is this idea that when you are adopting AI, that's typically going to help you become more efficient. And historically, in law firms, we've looked for efficiency in administrative tasks, but less so in our actual work, because that's going to take away from our billable time. Now, what's exciting that's real life happening right now that we see and feel is that firms are adopting types of technologies that reduce how long it takes to carry out billable tasks. As soon as you do that in a meaningful way, you have to reevaluate, what is the value of the services that I'm providing, and does that actually align with the price of the services, irrespective of the time that it goes into it. And so this idea around efficiency, AI, and how that fits with the billable hour, those dots we have felt being connected. We've been sort of missionaries pushing out there, trying to educate, provide resources, and do all that for a while now. But, starting, call it 8 months or so ago, we've really seen those dots starting to be connected for firms of all sizes, right? We have the big firms that have pricing teams that think about these things, which got their attention early on. But now, ranging down from everywhere from the, true solo and upwards, they're starting to connect these dots as they explore the implementation of AI or what this looks like for their future. And on our side of it, we obviously like that conversation, because anytime you're creating efficiency within your practice, you should be thinking about, whether it's with AltFee or otherwise, you should be thinking about how are you going to make sure the price of your services align with the value of your services ultimately.
Oh, I like that. That's powerful. Yeah, and it's true, isn't it? It's great that you are seeing these sort of dots starting to connect together, because I'm a big advocate for tech for good. Look, there are a lot of challenges, and there's a lot of ethical considerations and everything in between when it comes to AI. But with the right people doing the right things and trying to solve real problems, actually pass on the benefit to clients and employees, and reduce stress, workloads, and reduce bills, I'm all for that. So, but let's talk a little bit about being mindful, because people can get carried away when they hear things. What should law firms be mindful of when transitioning to new pricing models in response to AI technology?
Yeah, I always view it as, depending where people are at in their journey, just grow incrementally, right? If you've traditionally been a firm that exclusively operates under the hourly model, but you see this happening and you want to start to move in this direction, grow incrementally. And if that's testing out a few different project types that you do, test out the fixed fee model, right? Keep it simple. Look at things that you do with repetition, things that you're comfortable with, and start taking baby steps towards that transition if you feel like you're not quite ready to move in a meaningful way. And that way you're in a position to start to feel the shift. And this is some of the coolest conversations that I have seen have been around people that have had that aha moment operating under the fixed fee model. And it can be various things. It can be, I did a fixed fee project for a client. I sent the invoice out and they paid it immediately and I didn't have any conversation with them about it. Collection rate should be close to 100%. That's amazing. People have felt that. The other one that I really love to hear, because it's a personal one for me, is that they operate under a fixed fee. And once they have that upfront conversation and agree upon fees, they're on a team collaborating with that client to get to a desired outcome that they're all going towards. And it's this crazy shift of like this misalignment to alignment. And when you're a practicing lawyer that's been doing it for a while, you feel that shift. And I've get to talk to a lot of lawyers that have had various experiences doing it. And it's one of the coolest things to see their eyes light up when they've had that experience. And once you have that, it's hard to go back. Like, you're not going to shift maybe on, overnight necessarily, but you're going to start growing in that way. And so as a piece of advice, I guess I would say grow incrementally. And, whether you're using AltFee or, we have other resources to help people, just start your thinking around operating this way. Truth is, 80-something% of firms are offering some type of alternative fee already. So it's not new. It's more of investing whatever you need to be more successful in that, which comes back to obviously a lot of the stuff that we're trying to help with at AltFee. But whatever that is for you, grow incrementally and grow at the speed that you feel like is right for you and your firm.
Yeah, I always say run your own race at your own pace. And, I love the fact that, one step forward is one step forward, right? Rather than where you are at that particular time, perfect. I always talk about, I'd rather have imperfect action over perfect inaction. So if you could listen to this today, you've got curious about this, take that one step forward to learn a little bit more, maybe book a call, maybe speak to somebody who's already doing it. Those little steps, like you say, compound over time and have huge upsides down the track. Okay, let's go back to 2022 because AltFee integrated with our show sponsor, Clio, who we're all big fans of. So would you mind outlining how that integration works and what are some of the benefits this integration has with Clio?
Yeah, 100%. Clio's been such a great integration partner for us and just a partner in general. We've been down to their conference. We've been a finalist in their integration awards and got to know Jack and some of the leadership team over the last few years. And there's so much alignment between what we believe in our industry and what Clio is doing. So in terms of the practicality of what our integration does with them, there's kind of a couple, at this point, there's a couple main features that it adds to our mutual customers. One is that through that same process I talked about with an AltFee, where we're ultimately generating what the right price is for this project and how we want to communicate that to the client, we can take all of that, automatically pull it into Clio, and within a few clicks, you can have that consistent description and dollar amount to generate your flat fee invoices from within Clio. So really simplified that flat fee invoicing process between the two platforms. And in return, we're capturing data from Clio. In particular, we're capturing the recorded amounts that your team members are putting towards the various projects and pulling that into AltFee. And so what you're able to see in AltFee is a direct comparison between, the flat fee amount that I've come up with an AltFee, and then both during and after a project, I can see how that compares against the allocation of our resources as a team. What's the amount of time that our various team members have put towards this project? What does that look like if we had been doing this under an hourly model? And so that's been a really powerful, we launched that functionality heading into ClioCon last year. And that was really powerful for a lot of these customers that we're sort of talking about, which is those that are wanting to make the jump, looking for that boost of confidence as they do it, because now they can draw that direct comparison between, here's how I did it with my fixed fee, here's how I would have done this under the hourly model. And I can start to either, one, clearly see my big wins, which is obviously the goal over time. And two, if it didn't go great, it's going to put it in front of me and say, hey, it's pretty clear you did not do great. Why is that? It's going to encourage you to ask yourself and your team, why is that? And then take those learnings, incorporate that back into your AltFee system. So when you do that same project next week, you're in a much, much better position than you were before. So those are the primary areas that the integration sits in and adds value for our mutual customers.
Yeah, and it just sounds like a beautiful collaboration. I talk a lot about collaboration as domination, a lot on the show, and that's just a really good prime example of two organizations working well for good. Okay, again, I like to keep these shows super simple for everyone listening in. Maybe you're curious about law, you're in the law, you've been in the law for years. What are AFAs? So on the AltFee website, you have the AFA firm directory. Tell us more.
Yeah, so AFAs, alternative fee arrangements, again, that's what we would describe as anything non-hourly that provides cost certainty for the client up front. And so those are the examples I gave: fixed fees, stage-based fees, success fees, periodic fees, all those things, subscription, all that fits under that broader definition. In terms of the directory on our website, so this is an AFA directory. Really, this is a directory targeted at law firms that are offering some of their services using alternative fees in a way that brings them together. And so it's kind of partially a community idea where we want to bring together firms from all over the world that are coming at this challenge or this opportunity from the direction of, I provide some level of services using alternative fees, give them an opportunity to briefly describe what their approach is, talk about the type of work they do, their firm size, all that. It's obviously a bit of an opportunity for them to get their name out there, be on our website, and hopefully as a place that, we can gain traction around in terms of visitors and get people moving towards their websites as people that are doing things a little bit differently. So for any firms that are out there that are taking an alternative fee arrangement direction with their services, you can jump on the site and quickly sign up and get added to that directory with ease.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a seamless process. But it's not always seamless, is it, building a software company? It's no easy feat, that's for sure. So, we always appreciate sort of the authentic entrepreneurial journeys on the show. What have been some of the challenges you've had to overcome while building on?
Yeah, super, super challenging at times, right? I think that's kind of, if you're in a space that's niche, that's novel, it's even more challenging. And so we faced a lot of that, especially in the early days of really having to work super hard and just be resilient to whatever happens, that we're going to keep getting back up and coming after this thing because we truly believe in what we're doing and the potential of what not just the software, but this concept has for our industry. And so, yeah, I think there's, through our, whatever we're at, 3+ years of our AltFee journey, lots of that resiliency really having to come through of pushback from, we're going up against a lot of people in a traditional industry. And quite honestly, I very rarely have any of those confrontational conversations. I truly feel like people are seeing this coming, and it's more a curiosity around how we can go about doing it successfully. But yeah, a lot of those challenges are natural challenges of, I think, anyone starting a business, right? There's personal challenges of, how am I going to deal with this financially, with your family, with everything else at home? How am I going to make sure this fits so I can keep that going in a really positive direction? And then you have all of these natural business challenges that you would expect, right? How are we going to market this thing? How are we going to get in front of the right people? All these sorts of challenges were very real for us, and especially real for us because we did have this very novel concept that we were coming at, saying that you might be doing a little bit of this, but imagine if you took this technology and rolled it into your mix, how powerful that would be. When you have people that aren't necessarily asking for your software, you're in a different space than a very established category of technology, right? So we faced a lot of those challenges in our early days for sure.
But the great thing is, and the word that really stuck to me, which you said there, was resilience. And I think you have to have heart, because it's not straightforward doing this. And if you really believe in what you do, you will find the resilience to keep coming back. Like you said, keep coming back. And now, absolutely, you're only 3 years in, but the results are incredible. Just last month, CEO and founder of Clio, a tech unicorn, multi-billion-dollar valuation organization, Jack Luton himself congratulated you on a LinkedIn post on winning the ABA TECHSHOW Startup Alley competition I mentioned in the introduction. That's got to feel good. But how did you feel about winning that competition?
Yeah, it does feel good. And I think, it's each of those sort of external validation points are really satisfying and motivating for the team. I think, that particular experience was an interesting one because it was a multi-stage, a lot of people applied that through judges came down to top 25 through through a polling system that got down to 15. And then the 15 of us all pitched live at Tech Show in Chicago in February. So kind of all of the different stages that you had to go through to get there made it almost more rewarding, because you had the judges, you had the voting, you had the in-person voting. And so all that combined was really rewarding. But I think the biggest piece for us around that, and obviously we've gotten to know Jack over the last couple of years by living really close to him, but also through the integration and our relationship with Clio. So spending some time with him and being congratulated by him is awesome. But I think one of the really important points for us was that as we prepared for that, in terms of what our pitch was going to be, right? It's 3 minutes. It's succinct. You don't have a lot of time to go on a long spiel around this. You had to get to the point. And the point that we really wanted to focus on was we knew that 13 of 15 of us were AI focused, right? Not putting AltFee in that category. We would not put ourselves in AI first. We came at it from a problem and we had a solution. We know that AI can be incorporated as part of our product moving forward, but we really wanted to frame it as, look at all these companies, both here in terms of the startup alley competition, but also broadly across this expo hall we're all going to see for the next few days. Look at everyone and look at how many of them are talking about AI. And let's talk about truly the impact that AI is going to have on this space that we live in, pricing. And that connecting of the dots was something that we really try to encourage with simple messaging around this, which we've already talked about today on the pod. But that messaging is the messaging that obviously resonated with people enough to vote for us to win. And that, for me, is the most exciting thing, is those dots are being connected in a more meaningful, more direct way than we have seen to date. And us winning that, for me, is a direct reflection of where our industry is at in their thinking around pricing and how it's creeping up that priority list for law firms at a pretty incredible pace. So all that to say, it was a great experience, super exciting, awesome to come out with a win, but getting to be up there with 15 other awesome legal tech startups, of which 4 of them are from Vancouver. So we got something going in the water over here, was an overall great experience.
Yeah, and I guess sticking with that experience as well as the competition, what were your highlights from the ABA Tech Show 2024 for those who maybe weren't able to attend?
Well, we started off by flying in and directly going to see our hometown Vancouver Canucks play against the Chicago Blackhawks in hockey. So that might not hit home for your UK crowd as much, but that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool to go see. So we started off with a bang, and then we got a lot of time. You know, one of the things that I really enjoyed around the experience at Tech Show was connecting with other people that are whether they're with software companies, whether they're consultants. It definitely had quite a partnership feel to it. And I would say one of the things that has really stuck with me outside of the competition and the win and all that good stuff coming off that experience was actually some of the law school professors that I got to connect with. Was so exciting for me because I went through law school however many years ago. This for sure was not even a topic of interest, definitely not. But even like the practical skills, it was very theoretical, right? And my law school was actually quite forward thinking in the practicality side of it. But I had multiple law professors I got to have conversations with, and I've kept conversations going with post-conference about how excited they are, and they're teaching innovation classes. And they're so excited about this topic. They want me to come and speak or do sort of like a collaboration of sorts of how do we get our law students some exposure to your software. And so I presented to one a week or two ago. I have another one, which we're sort of collaborating on how we can make this meaningful back and forth work for their law students to get exposure to this idea. And so I just came away excited about one of those original problems or challenges that we felt in the industry around the people in it and them leaving. It just felt exciting to see, hey, you're getting taught these unique things that I certainly wasn't taught when I went through law school that ultimately I believe will create a better experience for those within our industry and motivate people to find the right roles within our industry that fit their interests and their excitement levels. So that was one of those things that still, a month plus out is still sitting with me as something that was super exciting to hear about.
I love that. And I just love the energy from those sort of shows that you get and all of that good stuff. And the hockey, that lands with me as a general sports enthusiast over here.
Yeah, okay, good.
Me. So you're good.
Nice.
I'm not going to ask you where you see your business in the next 5 years because frankly, I hate the question. I'm going to ask it in the way that I would like to be asked is, what are your future plans, Rob?
Yeah, so much. In so many ways, we feel like we're just beginning, right? We're just scratching the surface of what's possible. And we have lots of plans, both in terms of the business side and what we're doing on the product. But for us, it's really, a huge piece of this is just helping more and more firms be successful under this model. That's ultimately what we wake up and try and do every day, however we do that. And that's through resources that we can pass on to someone that's not a customer. That's through providing a great experience on the product. That's through extending our integration with Clio to tap into other areas of data insights that we can generate for them that will allow them to make meaningful decisions. And so for us, it's all about what can we do as a business on all the different arms of our business to help more law firms be successful under this model and start to test the waters, right? Start to make that transition at the pace that makes sense for you. How can we here at AltFee support you in that journey? So we have lots of different things that we have on the go and that are part of our future plans to enable that to happen. But that's what definitely keeps us motivated and passionate to keep waking up and doing this every day.
Yeah, and I just feel the passion, and I just know it's going in every right direction that you want it to, and more. And we're huge supports of AltFee. Before we look to close, I just want to ask a couple of pieces of wisdom from you and your journey. If you were to take a step back in time, what advice do you wish you had known about building a software company? And what advice do you have generally for those looking to start their entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, such a good one. I think, that resiliency, persistency, I think for those that are thinking about whether it's software, I don't come from the software industry. So I think I came from the legal industry and just saw an opportunity and kind of had enough, naive enough to say, yeah, we can go figure this thing out. And you kind of need a bit of that, but you also need to match that with a lot of resiliency and this idea that you're going to fall on your face a bunch and you got to keep getting up and going after it. And so I think for me, I would look in the mirror again, and for anyone that's going to go out on their own in whatever journey they're going on, and just make sure you're up for that, because it's hard at times and you wear a lot of that on your shoulders, and maybe only on your shoulders at times, depending on what kind of business you're starting. And so make sure that you're up for that resilient ride. And I guess the other piece for me, which you've mentioned, I know there's a lot of people that start businesses with things they're working on that they're not necessarily passionate about, but they see an opportunity in. For me, that would be challenging. For me, one of the things that has made this the most rewarding part of my career, hands down, the last 3 years, is it's something that I believe in so strongly. I'm eager to wake up. I'm eager to work on that. Those Sunday scaries aren't a thing. I'm not worried about Mondays. I'm excited for Mondays. All those are just, I feel very fortunate that I found that, but it's a topic that I care about a lot. I've seen how impactful it can be in a positive way on this industry. And therefore it enables me to keep waking up and getting after it. And when you get knocked down, it makes it a lot easier to get back up when you believe so strongly in the space that you're in. So I think those sort of concepts are maybe things that I wouldn't have thought about as detailed when I went and said, sure, we can go build a software company. I know nothing about how to build software, but I'm going to go figure this thing out. So the last piece to that, I would say, is, which has been very important for our co-founding group, is just a determination to keep learning, right? If you have this attitude where you're excited to learn the next thing, and honestly, I wake up every day and I face new opportunities and challenges and have to learn every day, pretty much is my life. And so if that's exciting for you, then this is a good space. If that's not exciting for you, then, being entrepreneurial can potentially have a lot of challenges that come with it. So yeah, I guess a passion for your topic, if you can, for what you're working on, resiliency, being persistent, and then excited to learn and be a sponge with all the learnings that are around you would be a few things that looking back and maybe forward looking are things that I think are super important.
Yeah, and three things I would absolutely echo and agree. I couldn't say it any better myself. This has been an absolute masterclass, Scott, as I knew it was going to be. I'm sure our listeners are going to want to know more about you, AltFee. So where can they go to find out more? Also, feel free to shout out any social media handles, any website links. We'll also make sure that we share this episode for you too. Yeah,
sounds great. I can pass on some links for you to include in the comments. Our website is altfeeco.com, AltFeeco.com. You can find me, easy to get me on LinkedIn. Just searching my name, Scott Leigh, last name spelled Leigh. So those are probably the most natural places to come and learn more and get started with the journey. But excited to connect with those that the topic resonates with, and definitely do reach out, and happy to jump on calls or connect via email as well. So start from LinkedIn and let's go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's there for. Thank you so much, Scott. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Legally Speaking podcast. But from all of us on the team, wishing you lots of continued success with AltFee in your career. Over and out.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If you like the content here, why not check out our world-leading content and collaboration hub, the Legally Speaking Club, over on Discord. Go to our website, www.legallyspeakingpodcast.com, for the link to join our community there. Over and out.